Hi there, Ron Schara here for Star Bank. If you're putting your money into mega banks down the street, who knows where that money's being used? Bank locally. Keep your money local with a community bank that actually cares about you, your family, your business, and your goals. Check out the bank we use at Minnesota Bound. Try Minnesota's own Star Bank. You can find them online at starbank.net. When you call Star Bank, you actually hear a real living person answering the phone. Star Bank has 10 convenient locations around Minnesota to serve you and all the mobile banking products that you need to manage your money. Check out all that Star Bank has to offer at starbank.net.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Minnesota Bound podcast, the stories behind the stories. I'm Laura Schara, your host for today, and I'm excited for our next guest. Before I announce who that is, I want to first start by thanking our sponsors, Connecticut Water, Minnesota DNR, Star Bank, and Minnesota Propane. All right, it's time for me to introduce our next guest on the Minnesota Bound podcast. Rachel Hopper is the Visitor Services and Outreach Section Manager of the Minnesota Department of Natural Resources. And Rachel, I'm so excited to have you on today to talk about our state jewels, the state parks.
Oh, thank you for having me, Laura. And it is my favorite thing to do, talk about our wonderful Minnesota state parks and trails. I understand we'll be focusing in more on our state parks and recreation areas today, and we have 75 state parks and recreation areas, so there's lots to talk about.
Oh my goodness. And I think, that's really an extraordinary number in and of itself, is that we have 75 state parks. Now, if you compare that, and I don't know if you know this data or stats or not, but is that more than any other state in the country? It's got to be high up there for the amount of state parks for our state compared to other states. Is that correct?
It is high. It's up in the kind of top tier compared to other states, and also per capita it's high, but it's not the greatest number of state parks in any state in the U.S. So, but we are in the top tier, I would say, maybe the top 10 to 20.
Oh, cool.
So we're very lucky.
Something to be very proud about, for sure. And I understand that our state park system is the second oldest state park system in the country. I don't think many people know that.
Yeah, so we are so lucky with our earlier Minnesotans that preceded us today, that they had the foresight to establish our first state park, which started our state park system in Minnesota, and that was with the creation of Itasca State Park in 1891. So we're very lucky, and that kind of started the whole creation and establishment of our wonderful state parks and recreation area system.
I love it. And for those that don't know why Itasca State Park is so special, and how I think every family should go visit there and introduce their kids to Itasca State Park, can you explain why that is?
Well, it is the headwaters of the Mississippi River, so that's one of its crowning jewels. But
Yes.
it is almost like a national park within our own state that is run by our state government as well. So that's not the only special thing about it. There's so many wonderful things about it, but it also has huge old pines. It has wonderful lodging opportunities, as well as really beautiful camping opportunities as well. And of course, it has wonderful water recreation as well. It really is, if you haven't been there, I would say put it on your 2021 bucket list, because Itasca really is a crown jewel within our state park system.
It absolutely is. And it's been a while since I've been there. I feel like I need to take a revisit to Itasca State Park. And, there's so many state parks to visit. And, how many visitors annually do we have to our state parks?
Well, it's been fairly steady over the last several years, probably over, but last year was an anomaly. So 2020 there was many things different about everyone's lives in 2020 with COVID. But generally, we had been maintaining, just slightly increasing in annual visitation. And in 2019, we had about 9.8 million visitors, and we had been slowly increasing. So for the previous 15 years, we had increased visitation to our state parks and recreation areas by about 25%.
Wow.
But then alone in 2020, it increased another 25% in just that 1 year between 2019 and 2020, with the annual visitation, day use visitation. So overnight visitors as well as day use visitors, and that number came out at about 12.3 million. So if you did visit a state park and recreation area and you thought, this seems busier than usual, you were right. It was very busy last year.
We were chatting before we started recording, and that if there's one gift that, COVID has allowed us to see and probably appreciate, is our outdoor resources, and specifically state parks or places that we can go to connect with nature and escape just kind of daily life, and how we really need to, it's really important to protect these resources for the sake of that they give so much back to us.
Oh, I couldn't agree with you more, Laura. There has been so much research that has shown that time spent outdoors is good for everyone's physical, but also mental health. And we saw with COVID, I mean, one of the silver linings was that it kind of pushed people to reconnect with nature and the outdoors. So we did anecdotally, we didn't collect visitor information last year, but we did anecdotally know that there were a lot of new visitors to state parks and recreation areas. And so we are hoping that despite all the tragedy and bad things that came with COVID, that it's actually kind of helped start a new generation of outdoor recreation lovers and participants in nature, because it's really such an important component to leading a happy and healthy life. It's so important to the DNR to make sure everybody feels safe and welcome. These are their public lands. There is an entrance fee to help pay for operations and maintenance of our state parks and recreation areas, but it's a 7-day daily permit to get in and a $35 annual permit, $35 annual permit. But the annual permit allows you access to all 75 state parks and recreation areas for an entire calendar year, starting from the month you buy it. And so it's kind of a small price to pay for the benefits you can reap from being outdoors and in nature. And we really are hoping that with that greater connection that people are finding and forming with nature and the outdoors, that it really helps to build kind of that next generation of conservationists as well.
Absolutely. And we're going to continue on this subject, because I am a big proponent of promoting, people connecting with nature and how good it is for mental health, and specifically kids too. But before we get there, I want to, speaking of Minnesota DNR, I want to quickly chat about Minnesota's wildlife management areas. Are a vast array of lands all across Minnesota, just like our state parks. And there are approximately 1,400 wildlife management areas that are important for protection of wildlife and, of course, Minnesota's outdoor recreation opportunities. So to find out more about Minnesota's wildlife management areas, go to mndnr.gov WMAS. So getting back to, the mental health benefits and physical health benefits of spending time outdoors. And, you mentioned $35 for an annual permit. That is a steal of a deal, considering what is given back to you as far as joyful memories, et cetera, but also really affordable for everybody. And with kids, do you guys offer, once COVID is clear and, we're able to gather again in groups, do you guys have programs and things for kids or adults or anything to introduce people to time in the outdoors if it's new to them?
Oh, thanks for asking that question. Yeah. With the passage of the Clean Water, Land, and Legacy Amendment, it allowed us, as you know, the Legacy Amendment is meant to supplement, not supplant, existing funding. So we don't use it on regular operations, but we've really focused in on, for the Parks and Trails Fund portion of the Legacy Amendment. The Parks and Trails Fund has four kind of major funding pillars. One of them is taking care of kind of like the existing infrastructure. So our shower buildings, our roads, our sewer systems, our camper cabins. So all of that, most of our state parks are kind of, think about them as kind of small cities. So it takes a lot of support and maintenance to keep them going. So that's one pillar. Another is acquiring land and developing new opportunities. So those would be your big kind of new projects that, for instance, Lake Vermilion, Sudan Underground Mine State Park, a lot of legacy funding has been going to support the development at one of our newest state parks. But importantly, a major other pillar, and that's the pillar that I am most involved in ensuring kind of we implement, is around connecting people to the outdoors. And the focus there is really on trying to introduce new users to the system, and it's with the assumption that for those people that didn't have the benefit of growing up in the outdoors or having a mom, dad, aunt, uncle, neighbor or friend show them how to do certain kind of recreational activities outdoors, that we provide certain types of programming to help kind of get everyone past that existing barrier. So we have this very successful program called the I Can program, and it has a suite of different programs within it that help teach people basic outdoor skills. So that includes I Can Camp, I Can Paddle. There's a new one called I Can Canoe Camp. That one may or may not be offered in 2021. So we've had to adjust our programming because of COVID. But there's lots of wonderful programs that kind of introduce people for how to do different things. For instance, I haven't yet tried out rock climbing. We used to offer an I Can Climb program. We don't offer that one anymore, but we still offer a I Can Sea Kayak program and an I Can Mountain Bike program. And then we do archery in the parks as well as I Can Fish. So those are all like really important programs that help introduce people that may have not grown up with those activities to feel more comfortable doing them themselves in the future. We also have like a nationally just phenomenal, like within the national framework, just a wonderful interpretive naturalist program across the state. Again, because of COVID in 2020, we were not able to offer naturalist programming, but within the majority of our parks between April and October, you can find naturalist programming throughout the week and most weekends. And that helps people that are interested kind of look beyond the basics of where they are and learn a little bit more about each individual site. So you might learn more about birds or wildlife species or some of the geology of some of our special units. So all of our state parks were established because of some specific, really important natural cultural resource. And so within statute, state parks are really kind of, they have a kind of three legs of the stool. One is for natural and cultural resource protection. Another is for interpretation of those important resources. And the third is obviously for outdoor recreation. And that includes camping and day use and picnicking and everything that you can do during the day. That's so much fun.
I love it. And, I think when you have a desire to try something new in the outdoor space, if it's not within the Minnesota State Park programs or whatever, there are so many opportunities out there that are very easy to do, understandable, affordable for really everyone to try something different in the outdoors. And I think, Minnesota, and really thanks to the Minnesota Department of Natural Resources specifically, you guys do such a good job at really making things approachable and easy to find, easy to do. And, I think we probably take it for granted living in Minnesota, but really it is something that should be taken advantage of because it really is special.
Yeah.
The things you can do and
Yeah,
try.
and I'm sorry, I forgot. I don't know why I forgot to mention this, Laura. But one of the important things of our naturalist program too is we introduce school age groups to the outdoors as well. So often during the school year time, so kind of fall, winter, early spring, our naturalists provide quite a bit of programming, educational programming to school groups that then come, free or at very reduced cost to our state parks and recreation areas. And a naturalist helps provide all of kind of that resource education programming for them. So that's another wonderful way to expose our young children to the outdoors and some of the hidden gems that you can find when you're out in nature.
So cool. And we're going to continue on the road of hidden gems. I got a couple more questions to ask you regarding winter and state parks. But before we get to that, we're going to talk about drinking water here for a minute. And speaking of clean water, I'm pretty picky when it comes to my own drinking water. And I, in fact, have the reverse osmosis drinking water system by Connecticut. And I absolutely love it. I've had it for years. It takes out contaminants in the water. It removes chlorine. Most important, it tastes great, which is important to me because I try every single day to drink almost a gallon of water. I can't say that I make it there every day, but I certainly try to get as close as I can. And having Connecticut means that we all use, less plastic water bottles, which of course is very important for our environment. And for more information, you can visit Connecticut.com to find a dealer near you. All right, back to our state park system and winter. Are there certain state parks that you would recommend that are best visited in wintertime for, winter adventure, if it's winter camping, cross-country skiing, snowmobiling? Do you have any recommendations for winter months for state parks?
It is so hard I saw that question when you posed it to me, and I was like, ooh, to winnow it down was going to be really challenging. But
I know, and
it's just so, I wish I could go out every single weekend or every single day, actually, to visit a different state park and recreation area. But depending on what activity you're interested in, there are certain ones that you'd want to check out. So, for instance, for overnight camping and lodging, we have about a third of our 75 state park and recreation areas. So I think it's right around 25 are open for winter camping. So that covers kind of all regions of the state from Bearhead Lake in the north to kind of like Lake Carlos and Mille Lacs Cathio in the central part of the state to Flandreau. And I'm so sorry. I'll pause. Sorry, that's my dog. Henry, stop. To Flandreau and Frontenac in the southern part of the state. So there's so many different opportunities for winter camping now. I wouldn't blame you if you don't feel like you necessarily want to shiver in a tent. So that's not necessarily for everyone. So if winter tent camping seems like too much, we also have camper cabins, yurts, and also in Itasca State Park, we have the Four Seasons Suites as well. So there's lots of opportunities out there. We have about 85 camper cabins that are open and available for year-round use, which is really exciting. And then we have yurts, which are much less common. We only have about 7 yurts in our state park system, and both the camper cabins and yurts are really popular, as are the Itasca suites. So you'd want to try and make your reservation as soon as possible. They tend to be pretty booked up because during the winter it's actually the perfect time to get outdoors. And I'm a big fan of staying in a camper cabin over the winter because it's the state parks they almost have a different personality in the winter. They tend to be quieter and really serene, and it's great for wildlife watching and bird watching. And then with the camper cabins, for instance, that are heated and open for year-round use, you can still have kind of the fire outside the cabin, but you can have your crock pot or coffee maker inside with you, which is always really nice. You don't want to skimp on coffee in the morning.
No, never. You never want to skip out on the coffee. And will you explain what a yurt is for those that aren't familiar with that?
Oh, for sure. Yurts are probably a lot of people actually don't know much about yurts, but they are one of our more popular amenities that we have out there. They have like a wood. They're insulated, so it's like a round canvas structure, and they have wood floors, but they also have like a wood stove inside and kind of basic furnishings, so you can have like a sleeping bag on it and everything. And there's often a skylight kind of in the domed roof as well. So they can sleep anywhere. I think with our yurts, they sleep anywhere from 3 to 7 people. And we have a couple accessible units too that sleep the smaller number of people. But they're fun. I have not actually had the opportunity to stay overnight in one because they are so popular that they're often booked out right away. So you'd have to, if you want to try one out, look early and look often, and be willing to stay during the week too, if you can.
That is so cool. And is that kind of like similar to what, you're seeing a lot of this glamping canvas, structures popping up in actually quite a few places all over the country that are now becoming the new way of camping in a way, or, if it's instead of a permanent structure, is the yurt kind of is that our version of glamping in Minnesota?
Yeah, somewhat. We do have a couple wall tent structures in a couple of our units too that are similar to that as well. But I would say that the yurts and the camper cabins and the wall tents are all nice for people that may not have all of the equipment and maybe aren't sure about whether they want to make that investment in like a tent, maybe a little grill, electric grill or whatever, and gas fire grill, and all of the different materials and equipment needs. And so it's a nice way for people to kind of test out the waters, as well as if you want to try our I Can Camp program and you've never camped before, and we provide all of the equipment for that experience as well. But it's a good way for people to be able to still kind of stay in a campground and get the feel of camping without necessarily having to make a major investment in all of the equipment.
That's a smart way to do it. Whatever hobby or sport you decide to participate in, it always takes gear and equipment to do it, and to test it out, to really see if you're going to, utilize the investment, and if you really like that type of hobby, it's so nice to have something there to be able to kind of sample it for a little bit. Like I spent a lot of time last winter renting cross-country skis just at some of our local parks and giving that a try to decide if I was going to, invest full time in a pair of classic cross-country skis. I loved it. I thought it was so fun. It's a great workout, but it's not, something where you're overly exhausting yourself, but you're definitely getting your heart rate up, and you can go at night and the trails are lit. And it became my COVID hobby was cross-country skiing last winter.
Oh, that's so great. Fun. Yeah, and it is such a nice, healthy workout as well. And we had to put a pause on our candlelight events this year, but they are an extremely popular way to get outdoors in the winter, and we're hoping to resume them, of course, next winter, because they're a really special winter activity that you don't otherwise get to experience. Because and a lot of our volunteers help make that happen, as well as our interpretive naturalists with the ice luminaries marking the trail. And so look for that to resume in 2022.
Yes. And I'd love to participate in that. I heard that is absolutely a stunning evening event to take part in. And hopefully soon we'll be back to being able to do events again. We're crossing our fingers.
Yes, exactly.
I have a few more questions for you, but before we get there, I want to chat with you about one more thing really quick. And did you know, according to the Environmental Protection Agency Energy Star program, propane is almost 3 times more efficient than a grid electricity? So it's time for us to do our part to use energy efficiently to reduce our environmental footprint. You can heat your homes, your water, your businesses with propane, the right energy right now. Propane, clean American energy. And for more information, you can go to propane.com. All right. So I've always been curious about a couple of things when it comes to state parks. And we'll go with the most common question probably first is, what is the most visited state park in our state?
Great question, Laura. We have, and it varies year by year. So I'm not going to give you like the number one. If I had to average probably over the last 10 years, I would probably say it's most likely to be Gooseberry Falls State Park. But
Okay.
the busiest state parks in general in the Northwest, it's going to be Itasca State Park because that is kind of our founding state park, and it's a huge state park too. It has thousands and thousands of acres, and 100 lakes within its boundaries as well. And then we have, so in the Northeast, we have Gooseberry Falls and Tetagooch State Parks. They're both on our North Shore. They have beautiful waterfalls in them. They are always extremely popular, and lots of people visit them every year as well. In the central portion of Minnesota, Interstate State Park right along the St. Croix River, and then Fort Snelling State Park, which is located right within the metro area, which a lot of people don't even know that there's a state park located right kind of nestled between Minneapolis and St. Paul. Those two are extremely popular. And when I'm saying extremely popular, I'm talking over 400,000 visitors a year. And then in the southern part of the state, again, kind of along close to the southeastern border is Whitewater State Park. That's always a very busy park because it is just, if you haven't been there, it's gorgeous, and you will know when you get there why it's so busy. So
I've been to, is it Tetagooch State Park? Is that how you say that? Because I have a
yep.
funny story about how to pronounce that name. I was up there doing a Minnesota Bound story on some fly fishing, and I went into the visitor center. Well, first I asked somebody outside the visitor center, how do you pronounce, is it Tetagoochee? Is it Tetagooch?
Yeah.
And from inside the visitor center to outside the visitor center, I think I even had like 3 different variants of Tetagooch on how to say it. And I was like, I have no idea what's the correct one now.
Yeah, well, I work closely with a former park manager from Tetagooch, so I'm pretty confident. At least it's the way he says it. So I feel comfortable saying it that way. But there's probably a number of different ways that people enjoy saying it.
That was fabulous. I mean, I thought one expert, and then I went in and asked somebody else, and I was like, I had 4 different answers. It was fantastic. But the Baptism River in Tetagooch State Park is a must-see. That is a stunning, stunning river.
For sure. It totally is.
It's so beautiful. All right. So the most visited, and I'm also curious on what is the least visited state park, and not that there's anything wrong with it, I'm sure, but I'm just always curious on what would be the least visited, probably based on maybe location. Do you know?
Yeah, and again, it does vary year by year. But they tend to be some of our units that either don't offer overnight camping or that are located, kind of in the furthest reaches of the state. So in the Northwest, some of our quieter state parks are Franz Jevny along the very northern border, Old Mill, which is in the northwestern corner of the state, and then LaSalle Lake, which is really close to Itasca State Park. It's a really new, it's a state recreation area, and it's fairly new in the system. So I think in part the visitation there too is just that a lot of people don't know of it yet. Then in the central area of the state, Charles Lindbergh is also a nice kind of just quiet place to go if you're looking to avoid the crowds. And then in the southern part of the state, Munson Lake and Lake Louise and John Latch. John Latch does not have overnight camping, and so it is less visited as well.
Well, those are good to know. Again, if you want to escape the crowds and feel really remote, Definitely want to give those state parks some love for sure. And is there one that you would say is the most, I know, unique? This is probably gonna be a hard question. This is like choosing a favorite, really, but it's not. The most unique
No,
state park.
I
I'm almost like hesitant to ask you that question because they're all so unique. But if there's one to stand out for you personally, I guess, what would it be?
Okay, yeah, I could go because each state park and recreation area truly is unique, and it was established by the state legislature because of something that was some unique quality. So they're really all are very special in so many ways. But my personal favorites, and that was even hard, so I was struggling with winnowing it down. But and again, I'll probably go by the regions of the state because each one is, I mean, just our state and the way it is with the four different kind of major biomes and everything coming together that there's so much difference between northern Minnesota and southern Minnesota. So it's hard to compare and contrast between those. But in the northwestern part of the state, I really love Big Bog State Recreation Area.
Oh,
It is incredible, and it's one of our newer state recreation areas too. But and it's split into two units. The northern unit, it has a 500 square mile peat bog in it, and
wow.
that's the largest peat bog in the lower 48 states. And then within
Cool.
that, then there's a literally a one of a kind mile long accessible boardwalk that goes through that bog, so you can see really firsthand what a bog kind of looks like and how it functions. So it's really neat. And then the southern unit is where you can actually camp, and then there's a sandy beach there and picnic grounds and great fishing there too. So I gotta say that's kind of one of the top of my list. And of course, Itasca. I couldn't talk about the northwestern part of the state without talking about Itasca. And again, that's just, it's a really incredible park that has so many different things to do and see there. Like I mentioned, it has over 32,000 acres and includes more than 100 lakes there. So, and it is the headwaters of the Mississippi. But also in the Northwest, I love Lake Bemidji State Park, and that's nestled kind of right within and on Bemidji. So it's really nice. So it's like accessible to people. But like as soon as you get there, that also has a bog walk trail. So it's a boardwalk within a bog. And then it has this great Rocky Point Trail, which allows you to hike up and then includes an overlook at the highest point on Lake Bemidji. So that just provides wonderful views. And then if you wanted to, I'm a big fan of kind of making a weekend, so like kind of a multi recreation adventure. So the great thing about Lake Bemidji is it connects to the Paul Bunyan State Trail. So the Paul Bunyan State Trail runs right out of Lake Bemidji State Park south, and it's our longest state trail in the state. It's 115 miles long, so it extends
Wow.
all the way from Lake Bemidji State Park south to Crow Wing State Park, which is south of Brainerd. So it's just, that would
Wow.
be a really fun adventure. I haven't biked that whole trail myself in one trip, but I would like to do that someday. It's on my bucket list. And then in northeastern Minnesota, I couldn't list a favorite without talking about Bearhead Lake State Park, and then Lake Vermilion Sudan Underground Mine State Park. Both of those are located about a half hour away from each other and are just a beautiful picture of kind of the northeastern portion of the state. And you know that Lake Vermilion obviously is one of our newest state parks, but it is formed with Sudan Underground Mine State Park, which was established in the 1960s. And then the Lake Vermilion portion was sold to the state, and it includes nearly 3,000 acres on Lake Vermilion, so that shoreline land, and it just between the two of them, it's just an incredible park, and it offers amazing opportunities. So Lake Vermilion is the fifth largest lake within Minnesota, at least that's located entirely within the borders of Minnesota. And then Sudan Mine is a National Historic Landmark, and it really kind of tells the history or mining history that reaches back thousands of years. So that is a great one. And of course, on the very northeastern tip of the state is Grand Portage State Park. You can't camp there overnight, but you can literally go to a spot where you can say, here's Minnesota, here's Canada, and it's just great. So you can see right across the Canadian border, and it also has the state's highest waterfall within it, at over 120 feet. So Grand Portage is a must see at some point. So if you're ever doing a trip up the North Shore, do not stop until you've reached all the way, and you're going to think you missed Grand Portage if you start to see the Canadian border checkpoint, but it's literally the last turn right before you reach the border, and it's right there, and it's a wonderful partnership between the Grand Portage Band and the state of Minnesota. So the Grand Portage Band actually owns the land, and we partner with them to run the park, and we employ members of the band as park staff there too. So it's a wonderful partnership, and we're honored to be able to partner with the Grand Portage Band on that beautiful area. It's really precious. If we're moving to central Minnesota, I got to say, Wild River State Park just has a place in my heart, in part because I just had one of the craziest experiences. It was right after, it was 25 years ago. So when I first got married, we had just gotten back from our honeymoon, and I was going to have this wonderful birthday present for my husband, my spouse. And we were going for his birthday to camp overnight at Wild River State Park. We had just adopted our dog from the Humane Society, and I was so excited and had like great dinners planned, and got him a wonderful wonderful birthday present, and we had our new dog. But because of all the fun things, I forgot to pack sleeping bags and pillows. So we were camping. It was like, near the 4th of July weekend, and we were camping along the river, and it could get chilly down there. So we were pretty cold that night and had to use the rain tarp to keep us warm. But then the next day we woke up, and the wonderful thing with Wild River, it's located right along the St. Croix River. And so you can work with an outfitter, and they'll drop you up with a canoe, up above and along the St. Croix, and then you paddle down. And we were paddling down the St. Croix River, and our dog was just loving it, and we were loving it, and then we're just kind of floating along, and there's sandbars and everything, and we came upon a juvenile bald eagle sitting there, and it was just one of the most, when you talk about how visiting state parks can really have an impact on people's lives. Like, this was over 25 years ago, and I still remember it like it was yesterday. It was just such a powerful experience, and just so wonderful, despite me forgetting really important parts in our camping checklist. So I wish I had checked the DNR. Parks and Trails provides like a camping checklist. I wish I had known about that and had double checked that. Otherwise, I wouldn't have been so cold that night. But that's just a wonderful state park as well. And then I can't forget southern Minnesota. So along the southeastern border, I really call that the South Shore, and people always think, oh, if you want to go to nature, want to go explore the outdoors, go north. Some of our most beautiful state parks and most wonderful experiences are in the southern part of the state. So don't forget to head south would be my major recommendation. And again, one of my favorite experiences, because I like to bundle experiences too, is Forestville Mystery Cave State Park.
Oh, sure.
So I like to go there and camp in normal years. So given COVID, we had to suspend the cave tours, but you can take a cave tour. So within the cave underground, it's a wonderful tour. So we're hoping to resume those, as soon as the COVID precautions get to be lessened. So we're hoping to resume those at some point soon. And then there's also historic site within Forestville, Mystery Cave State Park, that's run by the Minnesota Historical Society as well. And then on top of it, you can go biking nearby. The Root River State Trail doesn't connect directly to the park, but it's just a short drive away. So we always also enjoy a nice long bike ride along the Root River State Trail as well. So that's always one of my favorites. And then the southwestern portion of the state, I gotta say, Blue Mountain State Park is just a really beautiful park. They have the bison there, and that's the initial location where we introduced bison to the state park system. So we first introduced them, I think, in about 1962, and now we have a herd that we manage at about around 100 bison, 80 to 100 every year, and so that is a wonderful park to go. They have electric campsites, regular campsites. They even have a couple teepees that you can also rent, in addition to kind of yurts and wall tents. It's a different type of camping experience. And they offer, given the legacy and LCCMR grant funding, we were able to offer and have been able to offer what we call bison tours. So it's an off-road kind of safari type truck that will take you on a tour of the prairie landscape where the bison graze. And then we go and you can't always see the bison. We have to be sure not to promise you can see them, because they have a very nice kind of area to roam, but you're allowed to go and definitely see the landscape on which they graze. And then lastly, Kylan Woods State Park, where a lot of people don't know about Kylan Woods. So I would challenge you, if you join the Passport Club, the Minnesota State Parks and Trails Passport Club or Hiking Club, definitely check that off your list. It is just a hidden little gem in southern Minnesota. And I'm one that generally likes to have I seek out more quiet experiences. So it is just a beautiful park and has really, really high diversity of wildlife and plant species and bird species too. So it is another gem in our system.
Well, I have to say, as the saying goes, there's so many parks and so little time, right? Like there's just so many unique areas of our state that we can visit. And so really, none of us have any excuses for not spending time outdoors, no matter what time of year it is, with all of these great resources in our backyard. So, Rachel, I want to thank you so much for being on our podcast today and really sharing really what we call the crown jewels of Minnesota, which is our state parks and all there is to do and the places you can visit. And if people want more information on the state parks and some of the camping or any of the ICANN programs, where can they go for that info?
Oh, yeah. Go to our website, please, mndnr.gov, and you will be able to pull up right on our main kind of page. You'll be able to get to state parks right on the kind of the major left link, and it will bring you to a wealth of information that will help kind of guide you through depending on what you're looking for. We even have a park finder application on the website. So if you're looking for specifics, so if you have young kids in the summertime and you're like, I definitely need to have a beach where they can go swimming, you can pull that up and find the park that might best meet your needs.
Awesome. Well, thank you again for joining us, Rachel. We really appreciate it. And of course, we always thank Minnesota Department of Natural Resources for all that they do and offering us so many opportunities to spend time outdoors. And once again, we want to thank our sponsors for Minnesota Bound Podcast, Minnesota DNR, of course, Connecticut Water, Star Bank, and Minnesota Propane.
Oh, thank you so much, Laura. I really appreciate being able to have the opportunity to talk more about our state parks and recreation areas with your listeners. They are just wonderful jewels, and I hope everybody has the chance to get out and visit one this next year.